Next up, Ellie is gonna put her thing into the chat. Cars, fish, happy, spicy cabbage, plastic, origami, and Washington. I saw a red car on the highway with a fish on the lap of a happy kid. I sighed. I wanted to be happy like that kid. I wished I could have a pet on my lap, but the only thing on my lap was a plastic origami like frog. And because that cabbage colored frog caught my attention, I asked my mother, "After we enter Washington, can we eat spicy kimchi?" Mom nodded, and the car went silent.
Wow, that's amazing. I love it. Thank you, Ellie. This is outstanding. It is so imploded. Like every single action produces a reaction. Every event is the consequence of some previous thought or sight or observation, declaration. Like really, the logic of the work is imploded. It's the work of plot, and not just that. I mean, that's skillful, but not just that. But yeah, like Emma said here in the chat, you did this incredible job. So you made a list, just a random list, and then you managed to connect all of the things on that list by way of plot logic. So consequential logic is that's really outstanding. And I also love how you really wrote a piece of flash fiction in the mode of Stephen Tuttle or Lydia Davis. This is really great. I love it. It's also very funny. The details are very funny and kind of poignant as well. We talked about a little bit last week about how difficult it is to be simultaneously sad and funny at the same time. And I see that in the moment. I sighed. I wanted to be happy like that kid. So good. This is wonderful. It's also so good because it feels random, but it's not. Like it's actually implotted. So it's carefully constructed, but it has the kind of feeling of kind of like suddenness or randomness. It's really great. That's outstanding, Ellie. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellie. So next up and last of the day is Audrey.
Okay. I also wanted to just talk about a follow-up to a question I had a few weeks ago. It was about this Emily Dickinson poem. I think I was asking about the weird capitalization. So I was reading another book that had some quotations from the same time period, and so I did some research because it also had the weird capitalizations, and I found out that back in those times they didn't have very set capitalization rules, so they kind of just overcapitalized stuff that they thought was important.
That's right. Yes, just important things got capitalized. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then here's my story. Nurturing a goblin is a most painfully rewarding pastime. I know this by the way anyone knows anything experience. The day the goblin showed up at my door, I had settled down on the couch with a book, intending a peaceful day. However, there was a little tapping noise coming from the door, which I would later learn was tiny green warty fingers knocking lightly at my door. I thought I was imagining it. For some reason, the noise bothered me. Finally, I got up to find out where it was coming from. I flung open the door irritably. "Who's there?" I yelled, mostly to the wind, not really intending an answer. "If it's some woodpecker banging on my door, this isn't a tree." A little squeak came from my doormat. "Impossible," I muttered. "Don't be so silly." I laughed aloud to convince myself how ridiculous it was that a doormat might be talking. The squeak came again. I backed up into the threshold of the door. The squeak came again. "Quiet!" I shouted, and then wondered, what am I doing? I'm going crazy yelling at a doormat. I bent and examined the doormat, finding nothing but bristles. I snorted. What did you expect to find? A talking ant? I asked myself. "You almost stepped on me, miss," squeaked a little voice. I jumped a foot into the air, banging my head on the door. "Who is that?" I bellowed, beginning to feel very annoyed. I glanced at the mat. I must be imagining things, I thought. That does it. I'm going to see the doctor tomorrow. "Me, miss. I was hoping for a bit of shelter. Looks to be a nasty one blowing in. A nasty what exactly? And show yourself. I'm right here, miss, by your foot. And by nasty, I mean a nasty storm, of course. I looked at my foot and jumped again, and there he was, a tiny, ugly green creature. What are you? I hollered, much louder than I intended. I am a goblin, miss, and I was hoping for a bit of shelter, as I said already. Can we go inside and not stand round talking? The storm grows nearer and nearer. I stammered. Can't you go someplace else? Was all I managed to say. He shook his little head solemnly, his overlarge ears flapping. Oh no, miss. Your house was the closest I could find. The nearest houses are miles away, and the storm will be coming in a minute. And the ants put me out, shoved their pincers at me. Nastier folk I never did see.
That was very carefully crafted plot. It was outstanding. The interesting thing about that I want to point out that's really smart, I think, is that it's very subtle how this happens in the story, but the action that, according to the logic of the plot, catalyzes the arrival of the goblin is the fact that the narrator takes out a book and begins to read the book. So the book is a very Don Quixote kind of moment. The book is what catalyzes the fantasy. It's what catalyzes the otherworldly, the supernatural, the fantastical. And then from there, from out of the book comes a knocking sound. And I love the moment where the narrator opens the door and is speaking mostly to the wind. I thought that was a very good description. And from that knock comes a very small voice. Perhaps it's a voice in the head of the narrator. The narrator wonders whether she might be going crazy. And from that voice emerges the goblin. Really great implotment. Very funny story. I love the ending of it. Yeah, it was very funny. I agree with Nova and Emma as well. So thank you for sharing that. It was fantastic plot writing. Also great flash fiction. I am really excited by flash fiction. I wish that I could do it myself. I can't. It's really hard to do. So that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that with us. So I think we've come to the end of the reading list. Is that right? So that's all that I have for you today. If you want to stay after and ask a question, you're always free to do that. Otherwise, I'll see you soon. Good luck with your writing, and maybe come prepared to share it next week.